Hey guys, we're about to get started. I just want to do a sound check, make sure that you can hear me and make sure you can see my screen. So if you can throw something into the chat below or into the question section on your little control panel and let me know you can hear me. Thank you, Andrew. Hey, Ellen. Okay, thank you, Oscar. Perfect. Hi, Skylar. Good morning. All right, so we should have a bunch of people jumping on in the next few minutes. And while they're doing that, I'm going to take a minute to just reacquaint us with GoTo. It's it's a platform we used to use all the time, but since the pandemic, we have been using Zoom a lot more, right? But whenever we do webinars or we are more content driven and we have a lot of information to share, we like to use GoTo as just it's a little bit more professional looking, easier to use, like professional presentation platform. So we have lots of different options for us. But if you have not used GoTo in a while, what you guys will see is, what's on my screen. I'm not going to be sharing my camera today. It's pretty much just going to be presentation driven, so you will hear my voice. We will be recording this for later, so that anybody who misses it can view it at a later time. You have a control panel. You can hide this control panel. You can expand it depending on what your needs are. But a couple things. So you will see on your control panel, you'll see a section called questions. That's an opportunity for you to send questions, write questions. I will say you're more than welcome to write questions as we're going throughout the presentation. If you want to make sure to capture it and that we don't miss something or that you don't forget to ask it. I, however, am going to wait till the end to look at questions just because sometimes they can mess with the pace of things. And also sometimes we'll answer it in a few minutes. But if you're one of those people and you're like, I want to make sure I don't miss it, you can go ahead and throw it into the questions section. And I will make sure that when we get to the end of the presentation that I go through it and we capture everything. Second, there is a section in there called handouts. And if you go to that handout section and expand it, click down that little, looks like a little arrow pointing at handouts, you'll see a few things. I will reference these documents throughout today. So the community self-assessment tool, the baseline assessment, and then the switch to 6 is actually a PDF version of this presentation. So again, you don't have to take furious notes if you just want to focus on what's ahead of you, and then you can download those at your own pace and access them later. So I think that's kind of all. Everybody will be muted during the presentation, but once we get to the Q&A section at the end, you can throw stuff in the questions, but if not, you can also raise your hand and you can ask questions. So just like Zoom, there is a raise your hand feature. Typically, it's on when you've got your panel open, there's usually to the left, there's a little arrow and it's orange. And when you click on that, it'll like kind of close up your panel or open it. Usually at the very bottom, there's a little hand and you can click on that and it will raise your hand. And then it'll let me see that you have your hand raised and I can come to you and ask your question. So with that being said, I think that's enough time focusing on everything. Y'all give me one more shout out so I know that you know how to use the question section or the chat section. Go in there, tell me hi, tell me if you're excited for today, tell me how you're feeling this week, show me some love. And once I start seeing y'all throwing stuff in there, we'll get going. Morning, Ellen. Shout out from Brazelton. Hi. Morning from Statesboro and Thomasville. Hey, hey, hey. Hi from Dallas. Yay, we got people from all over. Hinesville, Monticello, even though I almost said Monticello. Swainsboro, St. Mary's, representing all the way down in the state. It's rainy up here, y'all. I don't know how it is for y'all. Brazelton times two. I love it, Jessica. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. So it looks like I'm just double checking. Yep, we're recording. Everything's shared. I'm going to unpause and we're going to get going. Okay. So thank y'all for joining us today. My name is Jessica Worthington. I'm the Director of the Office of Downtown Development with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, and this is what we're calling the Switch to Six. So for the past year, we've kind of been teasing the idea that the 10 national standards for accreditation that Main Street America has rolled out is going to be switched to 6. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. I will tell you, though, the idea is not to do a deep kind of training on this today. It's more to set the high level feeling and overview of what to expect coming up over the next year, and to get a feel for, you know, what the switch will be, what that it will entail. I'm going to cover what, you know, kind of the background of the switch to 6. I'm going to talk a little bit about the rollout, what that's going to look like for this next year, talk a little bit about the requirements, and then some of the training opportunities that we'll be dropping for you, following up with some changes that are coming to Dropbox. And then at the end, again, we'll do Q&A. If there's any questions, we'll stick around and make sure to answer those. And if you have like multiple questions that need to be covered, we can always schedule a follow-up call with you. So background on the switch to 6. So the National Main Street Center's been around since 1980. Again, we were one of the first states in the country to embrace the Main Street movement, and we are also one of the largest, most impactful ones as of to date. So when, you know, they first started, you know, you got to start somewhere, right? So this was the original 10 criteria that you see right here. Everything from broad-based community support to having a vision and mission and statement, making sure that you had management, a budget, a board of directors, and several different things. The kind of the wonky one that they always threw in there was the National Main Street Network membership. And I'm not saying it's wonky as in you shouldn't be a member of National. It's just more that that's not really like an accreditation standard. It's more like a baseline requirement, right? And so in reimagining things, Main Street America hired a CEO and became an independent subsidiary from the National Trust for Historic Preservation about 10 years ago. When Patrice Fry came on, they did a lot of looking at how things were working and how things could change. You know, the 4 points, the Main Street 4-point approach with promotions, organization, economic development, and design, those stayed the same, but they added a new component called community transformation strategies, a way of unifying your strategic visioning process under one big thematic idea. And we use those to help you guys with your strategic planning process. And again, I feel like those have been really transformational. But sorry guys, it's Tuesday morning. What can I say? But those have been very transformational in changing how we look at doing things downtown versus, how we may have approached them before in this kind of like siloed organizational or siloed thematic approach, then unifying everything under this kind of like one key vision. And so the next kind of thing that they took on was looking at these 10 criteria, originally called the 10 national standards for assessments, and saying, okay, what can we do to beef this up, make it more comprehensive, really truly hit home and serve as these like kind of guideposts for how a program should be operating most effectively, the highest best use, but also making sure that we're staying true to the core of what we've been doing all along. So I'm going to show you how these 10 fit into the new 6. So first, the first new standard, broad-based community commitment. Again, it's really pulling from that section, broad-based community support. And so the idea here is that we're expanding that concept of that a Main Street program is not the only one responsible for accreditation or the success of the program, but that it is a community-wide commitment that includes both the private and public sectors. And again, in that section, you will see a lot of emphasis on that Main Street is not a silo, that you cannot do it alone, and that you need that broad-based community support. So that one has kind of transitioned into just, fitting into one new standard. But again, I think it's pulled in some of those other components, especially maybe from like that comprehensive work plan section where it's showing like those partnerships and that sort of stuff and how we're working with strategically with stakeholders in the community. Again, a much more comprehensive idea of what it means to have that community-wide commitment. Number 2, inclusive leadership and organizational capacity. So this is all about people. If you could only sum up the number 2 standard into one word, it would be people, right? People, people, people. And 3 areas really got pulled into this section. So this is where we see kind of the overall guiding outline of how a board should work, a board and those committees, professional management, so professional staff, ongoing training, and some of that kind of organizational capacity and programmatic basics, right? So that all got pulled into number 2. And again, the idea of not just having leadership, but effective, engaged leadership, inclusive leadership, making sure that we're representing the entire community, maybe, making sure that we are inclusive of the entire community. And inclusivity is not just a black, white, race thing, right? Inclusivity means gender, race, sexual orientation, religion, all those things, right? So inclusive in so many multifaceted ways. Number 3, diverse funding and sustainable operations. So again, this really pulled from the operating budget section, confirming the importance that in order to have a strong program, you have to build a diverse funding structure, right? But really expanding on the expectations for private and public sector investment, meaning that it's not just enough to say you have to have a budget, and it's not just enough to say that you have to have a budget that supports your program of work, right? But that it needs to be sustainable, that it needs to be diversified, that you need to think outside the box, that there needs to be good financial management and accounting practices in place, right? To ensure accountability, to ensure sustainability, and to help grow like the capacity of the program. Number 4, strategy-driven programming. This pulls from 2 separate sections, vision and mission statement and comprehensive work plan, showing that these 2 things aren't really separate, that they really go together, that one should inform the other, and expanding the expectations beyond the idea of routine and idea-driven effort. So it, again, we don't need to just do stuff, right, to be helpful to the downtown, but what we need to do needs to be strategic, that there needs to be a plan, that it needs to be thoughtful, that we need to be engaged with the community, that it needs to be clearly community driven with community input, and that there needs to be an understanding of the market that exists, the market conditions, the conditions on the ground, the understanding of what the community is working with, whether that's demographics, average household income, regional kind of drivers or things that are pulling people away out of the community, whether it's for work, healthcare, you know, who knows, schools, all these kind of things, right? But again, not just having a work plan, but really truly understanding all that goes into a work plan, the measurements that we need to do and look at to kind of gauge our success, and then what those outcomes will be and how we communicate those. So again, taking this idea of a work plan and just really kicking it up a notch. Number 5, preservation-based economic development, and that really pulls from the section of historic preservation ethic. For those of you who have been around for a while, you will remember that with our former 10 standards, number 4 was always kind of a beast, right? Like that was the area where you could get the most points. It was the most robust. Some of that is because obviously we are economic development in the context of preservation. It is one of the things that separates us from all the other different types of economic developers out there, right? But you know, the idea too is that it's not just enough to save a building, right? You have to get it back on the tax digest. You have to make it contributing. It has to be active. You know, it's not just putting a business in it, it's putting the right business in it. It's not just, you know, taking a 3-story building and activating the ground commercial floor. It's how do we make this entire project cash flow, and you know, activating those up office space or residential units, you know, again, looking at the entire use of the building and the property, right? Highlighting that distinctive history, that heritage, and making sure we're recognizing our cultural assets, all through this lens of economic development. And then lastly, number 6, demonstrated impact and results. And so again, this is about more than just reporting key statistics through like the monthly reporting and your annual program survey. It's about how are we leveraging this data to tell our story, right? So data is only as good as the information collected and how it is used to advocate for yourself. So you can have all this data, all this information that is telling a story about you and your community, but if we're not using it to advocate for our program, to advocate for more funding, to advocate for more support, to help drive sponsorships and different kind of financial support, then we're really kind of missing the mark here, right? And so, you know, again, one of the ways that we help y'all do that is you guys submit to us the monthly reports, and what we do is we take that economic impact data and we turn it around and put it into a 1-pager for you, and we give it back to you, so then you can either use that to then create something beautiful and effective in your community, or again, just to show you know, your elected officials what's going on and what you're doing. I like to call it job security, right? When we can, you know, be able to demonstrate the impact that we're making. So again, that reporting of key statistics, it's in there in standard number 6, but it is much more robust. And then you'll see here. So this is, we got your original 10 on the left, your new 6 on the right. Again, the National Main Street Network membership. You are still required to be members of the National Main Street program if you want to be designated. It doesn't matter how much we recommend you for designation. If you're not a member, it's not going to happen. And I will tell you, we have had situations where we have made recommendations and people have not renewed their membership, and then they don't get the designation because, you know, I wouldn't do it either. I mean, that's partially how they are funded and can, you know, help, move forward and sustain their staff. And so that is a requirement, but it's not a standard now. It's just a baseline requirement that you have to be a member of the National Main Street Center. So welcome to the new 6. I feel like over the past year, we've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this to making sure that the new products we're going to be rolling out to you make sense and work. And I feel good about where we are. And while this is going to be something new for you guys, I hope you understand that we are here on this journey with you. And this is all about learning and education. So none of this is set up to be something that excludes people from participating in the program, something that keeps people from participating in the program. If anything, we think it will help provide more guidance and instruction for newer managers of what are good practices, how should a program effectively work, and help you build better capacity, more capacity, as well as more sustainable funding opportunities. So the rollout, the idea is that all of this will take place throughout this next year. So in 2023, you're going to get tired of me by the end of 2023 talking about the switch to 6. That's what we're calling it. That means switching to those new 6 standards, but we will be talking about it nonstop. We are going to be supporting you with both in-person and virtual training opportunities. Again, that means doing some deep dives in person as well as some webinars. This will require changes to the assessment process and the assessment document. If you go to your little control panel and in your handout section, it'll be towards the bottom. If you expand that section, you'll see a couple things. One is going to be called the baseline assessment, and that's called baseline assessment GA. And what that is going to show you those baseline requirements, like things that have to happen in order for you to be eligible for designation. Again, that's where you're going to see that national membership requirement, staffing requirement, things like that. So these are those non-negotiable, non-optional things. The second is that community self-assessment tool. And I am not going to get into that tool today. I'm not going to do a deep dive into it. I just want you to have it for right now. We're going to be rolling out some training coming up in the next couple of months. That is where we're going to do the deep dive into this. But I wanted to show it to you, for you to see it, to be able to kind of digest it from now until then and see how it'll work. But the idea is that every community will be using this document moving forward as part of the annual assessment process. Also, because, we haven't had enough change in the world, we're going to be requiring some changes to Dropbox, because change is hard. And so we're just going to do it all, right? Like, if we're going to make a few changes, let's make a lot of changes. But I will tell you that out of all the changes that have been made, I think in our beta group, that the thing that was supported the most and that everybody loved the most were the changes that we made to Dropbox. So don't worry, you're not in it alone, and I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth a little bit later in the presentation to talk you through that. And then lastly, we are requiring training on this. So, we have spent a lot of time over this past year working on these materials, working on these tools and resources to help guide you through this process, and working on developing, again, online and in-person training opportunities for this. All managers will be required to be trained on it. All managers and staff and board. Here's the caveat. So all GEMS and Classic Main Street programs, again, are going to use that new self-assessment tool as part of their annual assessment process moving forward. All Main Street staff will be required to complete either in-person or virtual training on the switch to 6. And I say all Main Street staff because it's not enough for just like the director to understand what the switch to 6 is and how this is going to shape and impact everything. Like if you have 2 people in your office, if you've got 3 people in your office, whatever that is, everybody needs to be on the same page, right? And so I know it can seem like a lot that we are mandating that everybody gets training. But again, what I'm trying to do is to help everybody be working and operating from the same playbook. Again, we'll be offering in-person options for training. For those of you who are like, I can't sit through another online training if my life depended on it, we've got in-person options, but we've also got virtual ones. Using this new platform that we've created for DDA 101 and Main Street 101, which will be launching tomorrow. Our switch to 6 is already launched as of last night. And there is a certification process that you would go through. But again, the idea is that everybody has over this next year the opportunity to get trained and certified in this. I am also requiring that board members, all board members, new, existing, and everything in between, be trained on this as well. But the caveat is that I am leaving it to the discretion of the Main Street program and the Main Street staff to decide how that training occurs. And so what that means is if you want to go through our training and then R&D that, rip off and duplicate it for your board members, I'm going to provide you the materials and the capacity and the resources to do that. If you would prefer to go through at each board meeting and do a little deep dive into each of the standards, I'm fine with that. I'm really going to provide you as Main Street directors and your staff multiple avenues in order to train the board members. And what I'm asking is that at the end of the year, you're going to stand up and say, yes, I have trained them and this is how I train them. But I'm giving you a lot of leash and flexibility as far as like what that training looks like. So training opportunities coming up. So for in-person, we're going to do a deep dive into all of this in Macon on April 11th. It will be a one-day training only. There is no cost to any of these training opportunities. We're going to use sponsorships and different, revenue streams to do this. I feel like if I'm going to make you come and get trained in this, then I need to, remove the barrier of cost, right? So there will be 2 in-person training opportunities. Again, one in Macon in April, and then we're going to do one in conjunction with the downtown conference. And again, we're doing that because if you're already traveling to Canton in August for the conference, then you might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then virtual opportunities, again, it's already available on our website. I'll show you where that is. Consists of a series of videos, presentations, knowledge checks. If you are doing it online, there does require a certification exam to get full credit. And again, that's because if you're doing it online, the only way I can guarantee and ensure that you're watching it and viewing it is if I'm asking you a few questions about it. It's a much lower threshold than some of our previous exams. For example, we have a question bank of like 30 or 40 questions. You're only going to be asked 15 of them. They're true, false, multiple choice. Again, none of these are designed to be gotcha, tricky, challenging questions. It's more like if you've read it, if you watched it, you will easily pass it. And surprise, surprise, while there's knowledge checks that are optional throughout the training modules, you might see some of those questions at the end. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Use this as an opportunity to feel prepared. All right, so if you are one of those people like you just want to start learning the switch to 6 today, what you're going to do is go to the Georgia Main Street website. You will click on the training section on the right, and then you will click on the switch to 6. When you do that, it will pull up this beautiful page. This is what it looks like from the inside. So you can see here, there's only 4 different sections. A welcome to the course. Every section here has a complete and continue. That's how you move forward. We've got a section that introduces this whole platform to you, how you can use it. We have a survey that kicks off and asks you a few questions before you get started. One of the few things we did leave in is a section about Main Street America. Again, if you are new to the world of Main Street, we feel like it's necessary to set the tone. You can see in here how long some of the videos are, 4 minutes the most, less than a minute. We have a section that has an overview. Oh, sorry. We do have a few prereqs where you have to like watch the video and stuff like that. But the real meat and potatoes comes down here. And so each standard has a couple sections. So you've got your overview, which is a video that we have created from our office. We have a section called In Action, which shows a presentation, and what it does is a deep dive into that standard and what that standard looks like. Surprise, surprise, in action, right? So what are the actual things that you're going to be doing? Yes, I know I said a prereq. And then, hold on, let me, guys, this is cheating the system. Don't cheat the system. And then, so you're going to see here, so you've got our videos, you know, showing, I wanted y'all to see what it looked like all pretty ready to start.
Standard 1, broad-based community commitment to
there we go. But, you know, for people who are audio and visual learners, we have the video up here. We've got all the text down here and have highlighted some areas that we think are important for you to remember. Then you'll see the sections in action. Again, don't mind the scroll, but this just shows, you know, through each of it, you know, what to see, what it is, the different emphasis, and then what it looks like in action. And so we give you examples of activities, and then again, test your knowledge. This is an area where you would go through, confirm, you know, the knowledge that you've received, and then move on. And we have that for each of the standards all the way to the end. And then we've got a section called key takeaways for each of these. And everything you're seeing right now, it will look very familiar because this is very similar to what 101 is going to be. And then what we've done is these are actual downloadable documents for you, where you can, you know, basically get the highlight of everything that you've just read, seen, and heard. So you don't have to necessarily download all this information. You just have one section here at the end that you can download. Then in the next section or the next steps, that's where your certification exam comes into play. 15 questions randomly selected, again, true, false, matching, fill in the blank. Threshold for passing is 85% or higher, like it was with Main Street 101. You can take it as many times as you need in order to pass it, but you will need to wait at least 24 hours between each attempt, because the idea is if you failed it, you probably need to go back and review something. And then we've got the some extra additional resources for anybody who wants to learn a little bit more. One of the other cool things is that it will measure how much of the total course you've done up here. And in order to get that certification, you want to see that number at 100% complete. So fun stuff. Again, all you have to do to access the platform is click on that switch to 6, enter your name and email address, and you can begin today. If you see something that looks wrong or is a hiccup, again, we just rolled this out, so there's bound to be something that's a mistake. I mean, I wish it was, you know, perfect and flawless, but I know someone's going to catch something that I didn't catch or the team didn't catch, and that's okay. We're going to give grace. But if you see something that looks wrong or off or misspelled, please just shoot us an email and let us know. We can make the changes in real time without having to change everything for everybody and then re-upload links or anything like that. It just makes it live. So let us know. All right, with all that being said, I am now going to turn over the mic to Elizabeth while I pull up something for her.
Hello all, I hope you're having a good morning. So I know this is the time you've all been waiting for. What in the world is happening with Dropbox? So Jessica is pulling up the new and improved format for Dropbox. We will be rolling out late April, early May for you guys. We don't want to make any switches until we kind of fully put to bed this assessment cycle to make sure if we need to see anything uploaded into your current Dropbox format, that we don't go in and fiddle with it too much. So that's why we're kind of pushing it back a little bit, but this will be the new format. And as Jessica mentioned earlier, that this was by and large one of the things that we got the most positive feedback from our beta group, because as you can see, it is much more straightforward than the previous version. So the previous version of Dropbox, you would, with our like standardized required organizational framework, was that you would go into your Dropbox, you would see the years, you would click into the years, you would see the standards, and in the standards you would go in, you would see folders that have all this type of stuff. We got rid of all those kind of extra steps for you guys and for us when we're reviewing your Dropbox, so we can be a little bit more efficient, but also it's a lot more intuitive for when new managers come on, that when they log into their Dropbox, they see exactly what is required every single year. We also reorganized the order a little bit. So you'll see 1 through 8 are what we call our dynamic folders. So if you click, Jessica, click into one of those if you will. So when you go into a dynamic folder, you will see there are year folders inside of it. And so that way, you know, we put all of your 2022 documents in 2022 folders. That's kind of some of the familiar stuff of yesteryear with Dropbox, but we have the more overarching framework that's a lot more intuitive. And then if there's any particular folder that has a required template, so let's say the training folder or the board roster folder, that required template is in there. And so you'll always have a blank copy at your disposal. And another thing we're working on is we're gonna have little instruction sheets in each one. So kind of frequently asked questions for each folder if there's any clarifications that need to be made. And then what we call our static folders are folders 9 through, I believe, yes, 12. And so those are the things that don't change every single year. And we used to make you, put those in each folder every single year. But now when we click into one of these folders, you'll just see the folder at large. And then you also see an archive folder. So that just means when you have your current document, it's just hanging out. So your program bylaws, whatever are your current bylaws, they're just kind of in the wild in this folder. If you guys make any updates, you just put that old version in the archive folder and the most recent version hangs out in the box. So that way when reviewing all of these this time of year, it's much, much more efficient. And then you don't really have to touch these folders unless you made any updates to any of these particular documents, which is really, really nice. And then we also have a couple bonus folders. We have a folder for historic preservation documents and other downtown resources. And these are just kind of catch-all folders. None of this stuff is necessarily required, but we do want you guys to remember that we like to see Dropbox as a succession planning tool and institutional knowledge. So if you have these at your disposal and you can drop these in here, it will go a long way for you guys, for organization at the local level. Plus, when somebody new comes in, heaven forbid, we do not want any of y'all to go anywhere. You are our family, but just in case, then they have all these things at their disposal and they will not have to go and dig and try to see what else, like where all these things might exist or ask too many questions. And this is also, these are just suggestions for things that can go in these folders. You can make as many folders in these as you want. And this also is that place in that other downtown resources folder where, if you have any additional supporting documentation for a particular year, that's where that will go. But we just tried to remove some of the redundancy, clarify some of the items, and also make it more useful for that succession planning element. So you'll see here, facade grants, ordinances affecting downtown. There's several other folders we're going to add to this based on the feedback from our beta group. We have those in notes. We haven't quite uploaded them yet, but again, we'll have kind of instruction sheets for each of these folders and one at large for the Dropbox framework in general. The downtown GA folder will be when we do roll out downtown GA. That's where we'll kind of communicate and share documents at that point. So it's kind of just chilling down there right now. We don't need to do anything with it, but we just wanted to make sure to preload that into everybody's Dropbox so we're ready to hit the ground when that is online. So yeah, this is I don't want to go too in depth today because we will have additional trainings on this in the future. But as you can see, it is much more intuitive, much more clear about what is required every single year. I want to say one thing though, please do not do anything with your Dropbox right now. Like I said, we're completing the current assessment year, so we want to make sure that we're comparing, that we have that old school framework right now until we complete that assessment process. So I know we have a lot of people that are really excited, maybe as excited as you can be about Dropbox, to change over, but we really want to put that assessment cycle to bed, and that normally happens about mid-March once we make our final recommendations to national. So we just want to kind of keep everything status quo right now. And then when we do roll this out, like I said, it'll be late April, early May, when we make that switch over to everybody's Dropbox. We're going to be helping you do a lot of the work. For our beta group, Ellen was the one that took charge of this. We actually switched everybody's Dropbox over into the new format ourselves. So we don't want to add any additional burden for y'all in this process. And we want to make sure that everybody's Dropbox is in tip-top shape starting this new process. So we're actually taking that burden on ourselves at that time of year. So you really won't even have to do anything quite yet. So that's kind of the good news. And then what we'll do with those year folders, those previous format folders, we're just going to create an archive folder and put all that information in that archive folder within your Dropbox. So that's where you'll find all of your other years, and where they'll live from this point forward. But we just want to make sure that we never want any institutional knowledge, any historical knowledge of the program or of the community to be lost at any point. Like, that is one of the major reasons we have Dropbox for y'all, but it's an easy communication tool for documentation, but also for that succession planning. And it's so important. Every time this time of year, it makes it's self-known as why it's so important when we have those new managers that come in, in December and early January, when they're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's like, okay, we'll go to your Dropbox. A lot of it's there. We just need to track down these kind of other documentation. And so everybody's really excited when they realize how much is in Dropbox and what a help it is. So please don't do anything to your current Dropbox. We're going to be helping you do some of that lifting later this spring. So just hold tight for us. Once we finish assessments, we'll start working towards this direction, but we just wanted to give you a sneak peek because I know we've been sort of hinting at it, and I didn't want anybody to freak out or wonder like if it's going to be like this crazy change. It is a major change, but we do think it's a positive one that's going to be a good thing moving forward for both our office and all of y'all. So if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to myself or Ellen or anybody on the team. If you're just kind of curious and want to dig a little deeper with Dropbox, I know that y'all have much better things to do, but just in case, I know that we have some people that like to kind of be working ahead. So we are open to any calls about any of that or any emails. So reach out if you have questions. But like I said, these changes will not be coming out until mid-April to early May, and we will be doing some of that lifting for you. Cool.
Awesome.
I just did a thumbs up. Nobody could see it, but yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And so next steps. I love this kitty, because he's cute, and look how calm and happy he is. That is how you should feel today. It is a lot of information that we have rolled out today. It's a lot of change, but just know we're here to support you through the entire thing, right? And again, nothing we're doing and none of the changes being made are to, limit people from being in the program, right? If anything, it's to provide more guidance, more direction, a deeper understanding of what it means to be a Main Street program and how to effectively run a program, how to operate. We will be working with y'all. So keep an eye out for information regarding the upcoming training opportunities. That is where our weekly newsletter is a great resource to find out, what's going on. On our website, we have, and I can show you real quick. We have, let me hide this panel. We've got our training section, and then you see our calendar. As we have stuff come up and is available and we're ready to do registrations for it, that's where this information will be on our training calendar. So, here's today's webinar, upcoming, webinars, in-person trainings. Again, all this is available on our websites, and we will keep you posted as more information is made available. Make sure you download a copy of that community self-assessment tool that's in the handout section here. And just take a deep breath with me. Everything's good. Everything's going to be okay. It is literally our jobs to help you get through this. And I know that this is going to, in the end, make all of us stronger managers, stronger programs, and we've got you. We've got you. Every step of the way, we've got you. And none of these changes are going to be made in a vacuum. We will have supporting materials and resources for you. And we will be with you every step of the way. So with that, let's move on to questions. So I'm going to pull up the question section and see what people are asking. Let me see. Dun, dun, dun. When does the one pager go out to Main Street managers? I'm guessing you're thinking about the switch to 6 one pager. We won't be sharing that necessarily with people till we do like in person and training. But if you want to access it now, again, you can sign up for our switch to 6 virtual and download it yourself. Yep, if you're just ready to deep dive into it. Do board members have to be certified, or will training we provide as managers be enough? Good question. So all of our Main Street managers and staff will need to be certified, meaning certified comes when you don't come in person. So if you come in person and you do one of our trainings in person, you will get a certificate of completion, meaning you're certified. If you do not do the one in person, then the Main Street manager and staff will need to do the certification online. I'm not requiring board members to be certified, but I am going to require at the end of the year when you're turning in your assessment that you as the manager is certifying that you have had all your board members trained in this. So again, I'm really giving you guys grace here and giving you the flexibility to train and bring your people up to speed the way you need to. If you are that person that you would like to have all of your board members complete the certification process, so you can say, yes, I know 100% that they have done this, that's fine. You guys can all do it together. Again, this is not a gotcha situation. Everybody can bring in their laptop and do it together. I think it just depends on, from a programmatic standpoint, your kind of like level of understanding that they already have and that exists. Now, if they are going through 101, this stuff is now part of our new 101. So anybody new coming in that goes through our Main Street 101 online will be certified. It's all in there. So like we no longer teach the 10 standards, the new 6 standards are in there and is part of that certification process. So, the idea is just getting everybody who's already in existence on our boards up to speed. But no, I'm not requiring, Emily, them to have that kind of like formal certification. That was a really, really good question. And I actually had to think about it for a second. I was like, well, what am I going to do? I think I'm going to give you all a little bit of leniency there, but I will probably have, as part of next year's assessment process, something where you guys will have to basically sign your name and, you certify that you can attest to all your board members have been trained on it. Yes, virtual training is also free and is accessible. All it requires is your name and an email address, and you can access it today. Oh, the one page, gotcha. The one pager you're talking about are monthly reports. We are working on those right now. We should hopefully have them finished up by the end of this week, beginning of next week. So we have pulled all the numbers. Right now it's plugging and playing. But yeah, we should have those for you relatively soon. Yeah, good question, Shannon. And I think I just covered that. So anybody who's new and board members or staff wise and has to go through Main Street 101, all of this is included in the new Main Street 101, which will launch tomorrow. So they don't have to do a separate training. Everything will be covered in that 101 training. The new Main Street 101 will be available tomorrow. Yes, today's Tuesday, tomorrow's February 1st, guys. And yes, it'll be available tomorrow. It's basically almost ready. I just wanted to make sure that we had this ready to go and launched. And then, we will do our double checks today and tonight and be ready to launch Main Street 101 tomorrow. But again, it's that same platform that you just saw. It's just much more comprehensive. So in there, we'll have stuff about Georgia Main Street. We'll have stuff about the 4-point approach, same format, same feel for, like how I kind of showed you guys how to move through it. But yep, they'll be ready to go tomorrow. Anybody who is pre-registered, when we make it live and publish it, they'll get a notification and they'll be able to access it immediately. If you have multiple people who need to sign up for Main Street 101 or any of our trainings that we're offering, you can always reach out to Ellen. So ellen.hill, HILL at dca.ga.gov, and or send it to our general Main Street address, and Ellen can always set you up with like a group code or help you do group registration, so it's not a struggle on your end. Yes, there will be a cost for Main Street 101. It's not free, but it is discounted, and it is discounted so we're going, as part of the launch, we will be doing a special discounted rate for the first few months to encourage everybody to get up to speed and get caught up on it. So we'll be offering a special rate, and then after the first couple of months, it'll kick back into that regular rate, and we'll be announcing that tomorrow. We'll be posting it, sending it out, and then you also see it coming out, more information about it in next week's newsletter. January reports, January report is not due today. January report would be due by the end of February. So December and January is those kind of like weird things where we have you turn in your December report by January 15th. And as of tomorrow, you should be able to start inputting your January report, and you would have till the end of February to submit your January monthly report. And for anybody who wants to share this information, we will have it posted on our YouTube channel later today. And you can, again, share it with your team, share it with your board, share it with anybody you need to, review it multiple times. We're here to help you. And if there's anything else we can do for you guys, just feel free to reach out. Other than that, I think we're good to go. I think I've answered all the questions. But I'll stick around in case something changes. Nope, monthly reporting will stay the same as it has been in the past. Well, we changed it last year. We're not changing it again. So yeah, the process will be similar to what you did last year. But other than that, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you later.